Okay, so this question, they've given us a curved cumulative frequency graph. They've given us a little bit of information about how many people there are altogether, which is 50. And then in the actual question we're looking for a cholesterol level of over 5.6. And it's important that we're saying over, and we're going to come back to that in a second. So we've got to read off the graph a cholesterol level of 5.6 to find out how many people have a cholesterol of 5.6 or less. Okay, so now we've done that with a ruler, and we find that 41 people have a cholesterol level of 5.6 or less, and therefore the number of people that have above that, the difference between 41 and 50 is 9. So 9 people have over 5.6, and that's 9 out of the total of 50 people. But as it's asked for it as a percentage, it can't be out of 50, it has to be out of 100. So I'm going to make an equivalent fraction out of 100, which I can do by multiplying by 2, so that gives me 18%. In part B, we're asked to compare the cholesterol levels of the meat eaters on the cumulative frequency graph and the vegetarians on the box plot. So when we're comparing two things with cumulative frequency and box plots, we want to be looking for the IQR, so the interquartile range, which tells us how consistent the results are, and we also want to be looking for the median, which tells us about the average. So those are easy to read off a box plot, but we need to work them out from the cumulative frequency graph. So before answering this question, I'd go back to the cumulative frequency graph over here and work out the lower quartile, the upper quartile, and the median. So now that I've read off all of that information from the graph, of course the median position we found by halving the 50, so that gives us 25, so we read across at 25 and down. The lower quartile is a quarter of 50, so that's 12.5, reading across and down. The upper quartile at 37.5, reading across and down. So if we first of all have a look at the meat eaters, we're going to have a interquartile range, which is a read-off of 5.4 minus 4.8, which is 0.6. And then we're going to have a median, which is the average of 5.2. Now, if we compare that with the vegetarians, we've got an interquartile range given on the graph as remember the upper quartile is just here, the lower quartile is there. So the interquartile range here is 5.2 minus 4, which is 1.2. The median is at 4.8. So we get 1 mark just for reading off all of that information, and then we get 2 more marks for comparing the IQR and the median respectively. So if we look at the IQR, meat eaters are 0.6, whereas vegetarians are 1.2. That tells us that the cholesterol levels of the meat eaters are much more consistent. So our first point we're going to say is the meat eaters' cholesterol levels are more consistent because the interquartile range is smaller. The second point we want to talk about is the average, and it's important that we use the word average because it tells them that we know what the median actually means. So the comment we're going to talk about for the median is that on average, vegetarians have a lower cholesterol level than meat eaters because the median is lower.